We're very excited that we're ramping up our first mine. We're super excited that the Rowan Project is on track to be a big part of the reason that we expect our production in Red Lake to go from something like 50,000 ounces next year to something like 100,000 ounces within 2 or 3 years. That's production growth.
The Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever. The Financial Survival Network.
Welcome. This is Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. We are getting a long-awaited sponsor update from West Red Lake Gold and, of course, Gwen Preston, who is the communications VP. And Gwen, you know, I've known you for a long time already. When we first started talking, you had just stopped being the resource maven. You still happy with that decision, or do you ever miss writing the headlines instead of making them?
That's a fun question. This company is so exciting to be part of, and it's such a good group of people working so hard to build something like significant that it's like almost intoxicating. So I'm super happy where I am, and I really believe that we're going to make West Red Lake into a significant thing. So I'm super happy where I am. I loved my time as a newsletter writer. I feel very disconnected from the rest of junior mining, which is weird for me. And sometimes, like, the market is going wild right now, and I'm like, I don't have like 20 favorite stocks to pick from, which I used to have like a long list always. So there's parts of me that miss parts of it for sure. But I'm super happy and excited about what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, certainly with the price of gold and the company's share performance as of late, there's a lot to be happy about.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Like, gold is 41.50 as we're recording this interview right now, like gaining 1% a day, just almost every day for the price of gold. It's really, really hard to believe that this is actually what's happening. I know we talked about it forever. I believe in it. I believe that the powers that are, pushing it higher remain in place, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. But yeah, it's a phenomenal situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're there watching the solar eclipse right at the equator. So the big news, Lower Main Austin hits. You just released some jaw-dropping grades, 139 grams, 74.18, all over meaningful widths. And put this in context, what exactly did you hit, and what's the significance?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for putting those numbers out, because I'm not so great at remembering the numbers. But yes, and they're over. Yeah, and I mean over like 7 or 8 meters. Each of those gold numbers that you said were over 7 or 8 meters. The reason that this is so cool, this is news that we just put out. The reason it's so cool is, so this is Red Lake, Ontario, right? That's where our mine is. Red Lake is not an easy place to mine gold. There is a lot of gold in Red Lake. There's been 30 million ounces produced over the last 100 years. But you got to put in the work. You got to like do a lot of drilling, really understand the deposit, model it accurately, and then you can run a really good mine. The Red Lake mine down the road, the mine that turned Goldcorp into the company that it became, it's been operating for over 80 years. And a good number of those years have been very, very nice years. And those nice years happen because this deposit reliably includes these particularly high-grade pockets, often around the edges, sometimes in the middle of the deposit, but these particularly high-grade jewelry boxes is what Red Lake is sort of known to call them. And, when you can double your grade for a year or something, which is what's happened at that mine, guess what? Your output shines. And so that's a characteristic of Red Lake, and that's why you bother with the effort of mining in Red Lake, is because of things like that. And so we found our first such jewelry box last year in the first half of this year, when we were putting out all of those really high grade drill results from a part of our South Austin zone. And that's exciting. We're going to start mining that actually in December, and then have it be significant sort of through the first half of next year. This set of drill results that we just put out is from a different part of the deposit. It's lower in the middle zone of our deposit, which is called Austin, and it's deeper than we've drilled at Austin before. And we there's a lot of data on the Madsen mine in general, 1 million meters in the database, if you can believe it, including all the stuff from the old timers. So there's a lot of data to work with that our geologists use to figure out where should we go to look for these jewelry boxes. That's how they found South Austin. And that's why we're drilling in the area that we're drilling in Lower Austin, is because the data pointed us there as potential for particularly high-grade mineralization. And these are literally the first holes that we drilled into that area. So really exciting that we seem to have found another jewelry box. Also exciting that as we get deeper, it's a reminder that the likelihood of finding particularly high grade increases because the miners didn't mine as much. This is actually below a big chunk of the workings in South Austin. Other miners, those who were there through the 2000s, have not been down this deep. Nobody's drilled this area from underground since the 1950s. So we're just getting to not quite virgin territory, but much more underexplored territory than the stuff up high, underexplored and undermined. So lots of reasons to just be excited about what this says for the near term. We could even be producing from this area by the end of next year, but also just the reminder of why Madsen as a whole is something that our team's so excited about. Like we believe these things are going to keep happening, and finding another one with our first hits in Lower Austin, really validated that.
Hey, so in a way, you're getting a double supercharge or turbocharge here, because on the one hand, you're finding higher grade. On the other hand, the gold price going up so high, so fast is making those other spots that weren't economical that you might have avoided under the initial plan, all of a sudden they become profitable. And on top of all that, you're getting 95% recoveries.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly an amazing combination of factors. But it is an important conversation because, like you say, the exploration, where we're focusing on taking our mining next is really about, how can we find the best grades? But then as we get into each area, like you say, the gold price means that it pays to take not only those very high grade lenses that we're finding, a jewelry box is often several stacked lenses. So it pays to not only take those high grade lenses, but a lot of the material that's around them that is lower grade mineralization. It may be 1 gram, it may be 2 gram. It's sort of the halo, but it pays to mine that stuff as well when you're already in there mining the high grade. And that altogether means you're just operating a more efficient mine. You're not trying to take little pieces, little stopes here and there. You're taking a big chunk of rock. It all pays. It's a more efficient mine. Your miners get to move more rock and be happier about it. And so what's the overall grade going to be for the Madsen mine? Well, we'll see. It'll end up being the combination of these jewelry box high grades and then the surrounding low grade. And like you said, our initial mine plan, the PFS that we put out, what feels like a very long time ago, but was actually just in January, focused only on the high grade because the gold price was much lower in that study. It used less than $1,700 gold in the mine plan. And so when you use a more modern gold price, something from the last few months in your mine design, it's a different mine. And it's a mine that mines way more of this deposit. So it's a mine that'll last longer and produce more ounces altogether, and therefore has a bigger value than the mine that initial plan put out.
And, that's the problem with the PFS is by nature, they have to be conservative. But then when you have a situation like what we've gone through in the market, your PFS right now, it was completely obsolete. And I don't want to say it was useless because it's required. It's part of the game. You have to do it. But maybe not useless, but less meaningful. Should we call it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's like you say, it's not useless. It was important. It achieved the things that it needed to achieve at the time that we needed them, which is validating the plan and, giving the market a concept of what we were doing, enabling us to literally talk about the mine. You're not allowed to talk about operating a mine unless you have a pre-feasibility study or a feasibility study. So it did all those things that you need it to do. But yes, it doesn't really reflect the mine as we are operating it. And just to look ahead, we are planning on doing a new PFS in the middle of next year. And there's 2 really important reasons to do that. The first is that Our other project around the corner, the Rowan Project, we just did an initial mine plan up there, a PEA, and we want to advance that to the kind of mine plan that we can actually build the mine on, a PFS. And we want to do that in conjunction with a new one for Madsen. And the reason to do that is because they will be a joint operation. We do plan on bringing the ore, the mineralization from Rowan to Madsen for processing. So we need to turn them into one project. And so we'll do an updated PFS that will officially bring them into one project, update, refine, do more engineering on Rowan, and we'll have a better look at the way that Madsen's actually being mined. And we expect our goal is to get that out in the third quarter of next year. So within a year, we'll have a new mine plan that reflects the way this thing is actually operating.
And I can't wait to see what your IRR is in that plan. I mean, it was already pretty outrageous in the prior one, but the prior one was, like you said, $1,700, gold. It's meaningless.
Yeah. I mean, an IRR is, again, another interesting concept, right? When we put out our mine plan for Madsen, we put that out when most of the investment was already done. So an IRR has to do with comparing with the amount of capital that's left to spend. And there wasn't a lot of capital left to spend when we issued that report. Just sort of another reason why these reports really only capture a moment in time. But yes, very strong IRR for Madsen, really strong IRR for Rowan, a 42% IRR for that Rowan project as an add-on. And so, it is exciting to be a new and growing gold miner in this market. That's really what it comes down to. We're very excited that we're ramping up our first mine. We're super excited that the Rowan Project is on track to take us to be a big part of the reason that we expect our production in Red Lake to go from something like 50,000 ounces next year to something like 100,000 ounces within 2 or 3 years. That's production growth. That's what West Red Lake Gold was founded to do, to deliver production growth to the market from small to medium, because that's what we think creates the best leverage for investors in a rising gold market. So we're really excited that we're doing it in Red Lake. And I mean, that the gold price is playing along so beautifully is just adds to it.
So how many ounces got poured the latest month? September, I guess.
What was the ounces in September? Now I'm trying to remember. So we did a third quarter update, and there was 7,055 ounces in the third quarter, which brought our year-to-date amount to 13,000 and some. Sorry, I forget the exact number. And that's all part of the ramp up plan. I know it would be lovely if mines could ramp up faster, but I suggest that trying to do it quickly was one of the key downfalls at the Madsen mine last time. And so I think anybody who's listened to us or watched our story, we're focused on methodical. We want to make sure we're doing it. We're developing a mine that is strong and reliable and can be the foundational asset for this mid-tier gold miner that we're building. And so that's the focus, and we're really comfortable with the way that this thing is ramping up. And we're quite clearly saying early in the first quarter of next year is when we expect that we'll get this thing to commercial production. And then the mine will be operating the way that we want it to be operating.
It's right around the corner. And speaking of capital, so you did a recent raise to pull forward ventilation and power upgrades. How much of that spend goes towards accelerating production versus pure exploration?
Yeah, so good question. So there will be, so of the 41 million that we raised, 5 million of it was flow through dollars that can only be used for exploration. And specifically, those are for the Rowan project. So Rowan, we did that first mine plan. We do want to do 3,000 meters of drilling up at Rowan. We need to do 3,000 meters of drilling up at Rowan that will upgrade the small part of the mine plan that's currently inferred, bring it up to indicated, do some infill holes on an area that only had historic drilling on it, that we expect will bring that part of that lens, it's called vein 6B, bring it into the mine plan, which we think will add a year and a half, almost 2 years of mine life to the current Rowan mine plan, and will enable it to get into production faster because of where that vein sits relative to the development decline. So there's some really strong reasons to do drilling up at Rowan. So we're going to do that. And then it's hard to really talk. We won't do any pure exploration drilling at Madsen this year. We have surface targets that we're excited about, the North Shore target and similar. But the exploration drilling that we will do is near mine, right? We're always looking for more of these jewelry boxes. We're always drilling ahead to flesh out our mine plan. And there's areas that we're really keen to get to for those purposes. So yes, that's a self-funding part of the Madsen mine. And so in general, the new capital is for pulling forward the ventilation projects, the power projects, maybe doing some more work on the shaft, maybe enabling us to get deeper sooner so that we can start looking deep at Madsen to understand what the second half, I'm just picking a number out, but the second half of this deposit that we expect continues at depth, what that looks like, so we can start to envision that engineering plan. So the majority of this capital is for that, and then some of it is to just bolster that operating capital as we finish this ramp up.
Yeah, so it's really about acceleration more than exploration, I guess, with some thrown in. So what should investors be watching for in the next few months? More drill results, shaft performance, or the official ounce count? Where do we focus?
Yeah, for sure. So I think we're doing three things at the same time at West Red Lake is the way that I like to break it down. The first goal, and the goal that the market is most focused on for sure, is getting Madsen to commercial production. And like I say, January is sort of our goal for that. I think that will be a significant announcement, partly because that's also when we will give guidance. Here's what we're going to do for the next 12 months. Tons, grade, ounces. The market wants to know that. For this stuff that you and I were just talking about, that the PFS doesn't reflect the way we're actually mining. So this guidance report is going to be helpful for everyone to understand what Madsen really is all about in its first year of full operation. So commercial production early in Q1, that'll be a big milestone. At the same time, of course, we are working to turn this initial version of the Madsen mine, which is what we promised to the market, we're working on making it into more, right? So we're going to I think we will start drilling at Rowan very soon. So we'll be able to start doing drill results from Rowan and helping people understand why we like that deposit so much. It's a great deposit, very high grade, nicely shaped for mining. We'll continue to look for jewel boxes. I'm sure the next set of results will be more from this new jewel box that we found in Lower Austin. And then just the bigger picture work towards that joint mine plan that makes very clear our path to producing a lot more in Red Lake, within just a few years. Our goal is to be a growing gold producer in this market. And so you never know how long a gold market's going to last. And so you got to do it sooner rather than later. So that's the second thing, is growing production in Red Lake. And then the third thing is, if we want to become a mid-tier gold miner in this market, we probably need to acquire an asset that's outside of Red Lake as well. So that's always something that we're also pursuing. Who knows if, what, where, when, how that could come to be. But I always like to say it because if something does land and we announce, I don't want the market to be surprised that was something that we were also doing. We're always looking, because gold markets don't last forever and competition for assets only gets steeper. These things only get more expensive. And so, we are looking now to see if we can do something.
And hopefully the stock will keep going up. You'll use the stock as currency and you'll get those acquisitions. They'll be accretive to the ounces in the ground. Well, I guess in other words, Gwen, the Madsen turnaround keeps getting validated one intercept at a time. We'll be watching for the next assays closely. Appreciate the update. Suggest you all go over to westredlakegold.com, sign up for notifications so that you'll be right. It'll be right there when it happens. And of course, the symbols in the US, WRLGF, and in Canada, WRLG. Gwen, we will talk to you again real soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Financial Survival Network.